Welcome to the Bag Room, everybody. I'm Ryan Ballengee. Great to have you with us. Seth Benziger is our guest today. He's the account manager for athletic and indoor at BOA. We're big fans of BOA. I've been wearing BOA shoes for, oh gosh, feels like 10, 12 years now. Maybe even longer than that. I probably have lost count, but I've had lots of great pairs of BOA first shoes from different manufacturers over the years. Adidas, FootJoy come to mind immediately. Can you kind of give us a lay of the land of where BOA is today in the golf market and some of the different partners that you're working with? I mean, obviously you're still with Adi and FootJoy, but kind of what the landscape of BOA and golf looks like these days.
Yeah, definitely, Ryan. And before I get into that one, just thank you for this opportunity. I love talking BOA, talking golf. It's kind of my background and giving everyone a little peek behind the curtain at what we do here and how we kind of support our brand partners. So, yeah, we focus mainly on working with the best brands, working on their best products to elevate fit and performance to allow our users to just kind of reach levels that they didn't think possible. We really feel like footwear is that key that can unlock a lot of performance advantages. So, like you said, we work with Adidas Golf, FootJoy, Nike, Under Armour. We have a team over in Austria that works really closely with Echo, and then we have teams in Japan that work with Mizuno, New Balance, and Bridgestone. So we kind of have that global representation, and we really strive to connect with those best brands within the industry, I guess you could say.
Over the years, when I've talked with folks from BOA or seen kind of how the BOA dial system is integrated into different apparel maker shoes, they all kind of seem to have a little bit of a different take on it. There's no kind of standard one way to kind of put BOA in your shoe. Do manufacturing partners, brand partners have kind of different philosophies on what they like to get out of BOA or how they get the most out of BOA for, placement versus fashion, uh, type of shoe, different types of materials, kind of do different partners have different schools of thought generally on how to work with BOA?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Each brand has their own ethos, let's say. Adidas Golf is really rooted in sport. That's where they started with getting into football or soccer, as we like to say over here in the past, and it's really spiraled from there. So they're really focused on sport. Let's take a FootJoy, for example, that's got that classic look and feel, that premium performance. They really try to integrate us in a way that doesn't disrupt the toe down look and keeps kind of that, yeah, classic dress shoe look, that premium materials. And then, we got Echo that, I don't work directly with them, but they really pride themselves in the leathers they use. And so anything they're going to put on their shoes has to elevate that level that they already strive for with their regular base. So, we have different philosophies with each brands, but we really try to focus on how we can best integrate our product to really boost the fit performance and really match the kind of the desires the brand's looking for in their shoes and their models, and just take it to that next level.
Some brands love to use BOA as kind of it's almost to its unto itself, its own model. A BOA first shoe. Some folks do that, or some different companies do that. Some kind of have a BOA model as a part of a line. They've got
Mhm.
one model that's kind of good old fashioned laces, and one that's a BOA model that's kind of more of a mirror of one another.
Mhm.
What's kind of the breakdown of the percentage of those shoes that are kind of BOA first, or maybe even BOA only, versus BOA as a contrast to laces?
Yeah, it's difficult to put an overarching percentage. I'd say a brand like Adidas, they'll lean into the BOA models a little more and really adopts what we like to call our perform fit wrap configurations that you'd see on Code Chaos 2 or 360, their new Audi Zeros. Almost really rethink that model and really integrate BOA within it. And then you have FootJoy that takes, their Premier series, their Hyperflex, their Tour Alphas, and they really like more of that one-to-one kind of comparison between lace and the BOA. And we understand where brands come from. We want to support them at every level possible. So we're not gonna force them in a direction they don't want to go. We're gonna really try to learn the strategy with that, which consumer they're trying to target, and then really work directly with them to get what they want. We can take a shoe like the new Hyperflex from FootJoy, keep it really classic looking, keep it really comparable to the lace, but add the micro adjustability, the uniform closure that will take fit to a next level. Or with Code Chaos, as I mentioned, we can add full on panels, get really disruptive. It's in the name, it's chaotic, and really boost that performance just to the next level. So, the percentage, I'd say Adidas were definitely higher with BOA only models. And then FootJoy Echo were probably more 50-50 where they have lace and BOA, but they're normally very similar between the two within that model set.
When you're planning out these footwear models a couple years in advance, is it from your end of you guys are obviously a partner to the brands, but you guys are making products too and innovations, and you're excited about the things that you bring to the table. So what is kind of the pitch from BOA to partners about, hey, this is a new idea or a new innovation, new material, new something different about the BOA closure system that you've innovated upon since a year ago or what have you? How do you pitch kind of getting partners to use those new innovations as
Mhm.
opposed to kind of sticking by what worked last time, for example?
Yeah, no, and I think that's where we really leverage our Performance Fit Lab. I know you've had some calls in the past with Dan Feeney,
Yep.
where we really take a deep look at fit and performance. How can we, lock that user in, really rethink the way a shoe closes and how that performs around your foot. So we're always testing different configurations, different dial locations, different panels. And then really cool that we've started in the past year and a half is really looking at materials. So we've got a material specialist within our PFL who really focuses on characteristics of materials, let's say stretchability, drapeability, to really take our performance configurations, those perform fit wrap, and take that to the next level. So really the way we work with our brands to get them to buy in is we have brands that really strategic partnership. They align with us. They get us involved when a model's getting briefed in. So we have connections with the product teams, the design teams, the development teams, the factories. So we're kind of really functioning more as a team, let's say, than a partnership. And that's really the secret sauce. That's how we can really influence a model and get it going in a performance direction where we can, like you said, we're always living in the future. Footwear development's 18 to 24 months. So we're targeting stuff now that's going to be coming out 2027, 2028. And we're trying to track consumer trends. Where do we think the market's going to be at that time? Are we looking for, let's say, APAC like Japan or Korea, where they really lean into performance? Or is this more of a North America based model where they may be more conservative and want more of that clean toe down look that we know the consumers here want? Luckily for me, I come from golf. I've been a journeyman. I started right out of college. I went to Scottsdale. I tried to play on the Gateway Tour, the Championship Players Tour. That sent me in a direction of, you know, outside management. You're in doing assistant pro in a clubhouse. And then I started doing, let's say, I did club repair. Then I coached at Golf Tech. So I feel like I really know that consumer. And I feel like I can add that advantage to our brands where they really feel like I'm adding value. I have a deep rooted kind of connection with the industry. And so it's fun for me because I've been a shoe guy since the day I was born. The new East Bay catalogs come out. I'll probably date myself, Eurosport and football. And I love getting those and reading what makes this new model different from the last. How are they, thinking about things differently? So now to actually have my hand in the ingredients in the cookie jar and really be able to influence it, I love it. And so we get them to buy in because they trust us. We add value and we are doing things internally. We've got new dials. We know golfers, you want something that looks good, look good, feel good, play good. So we can't always have, let's say, a science project on your feet. So now we're really taking, let's say, panels, but how do we integrate those in a really clean, classic way? Or if it's going to be a more what we like to call lace replacement or classic fit, that's the ones that look like kind of a lace shoe. How do we still elevate that? Could there be little hidden performance attributes that you don't see until you put it on, tighten that dial, and then you feel it, and then the light bulb turns on, and that's when you really get that connection with BOA, and you get those consumers that once you try BOA, we have data that supports they don't go away. They keep buying BOA going forward. We've really broken through in APAC. I think that's where technology is king, and we're we're focusing on North America because it's a big growth opportunity for us, and we see the potential that we can provide the consumers to allow them to elevate their game. And we see that goal out there, but really we are on the journey. We enjoy the journey. We love working with our brand partners deeply. Like I said, Audi, FootJoy, Echo, they really bring us on in the beginning. That's why we can see their products elevated to a higher level than, let's say, that other brands that really are more superficial. They get the lace version, and then they come to us and say, how do we get BOA in this? And that's when we don't have as much influence. So we really strive to get in early, and kind of influence it in the way that we know will boost performance.
Are there some brands that have tried to or think toward using the partnership in a slightly different way? Instead of BOA kind of adding value, they kind of add value to BOA, where they can introduce a BOA model at a competitive or even a little bit lower price point to get people access to BOA and get them maybe a little bit more of an economic incentive to try BOA, so that they kind of get into that universe.
Yeah, no, definitely. And when you add BOA, because it's a dials, lace, and guides, they kind of work in harmony together. It's gonna increase the cost of goods, which will then kind of reflect the end product. So we normally see about a $20 increase.
Yeah.
What we have done, and a lot of people may not even know it because, I eat and sleep BOA. So I know our dials. I know we have what we call like entry level, and then we have multi-directional dials that are going to come with a little higher cost, but a little bit higher user interface, where you can turn to tighten, turn back to loosen, that micro adjustability. So we really kind of like to offer different dials, different system costs at different levels. So you can get, let's say, an S2G with Adidas Golf that will come in at 120, that really has kind of our entry level dial. It still has the micro adjustable performance, but then something on Tour 360, which is going to be a 220, $100 more. We want to have a dial that kind of matches that model. That's an elevated model from Adidas Golf. We have to have a product that really aligns with that. So we have different, design aspects, different, translucence, different overmolds, kind of what you grip and turn the dial. There's just a little bit more customability with those, which really aligns with the products they're going on. So we know that it's going to increase the cost between the lace and the BOA version, but we really hang our hat on the performance attributes that we can provide the end consumer. So we know that what they're spending a little extra for, they're going to realize that it was worth their money. We can see golfers buying a new driver every year, and we've seen drivers going up from $500, let's say 10 years ago, to now to 700, 750.
Yeah.
And they are spending that extra bit of money to try to get a little extra ball speed, a little bit more distance, a little bit more, let's say, MOI and, forgiveness. So we want to get the consumers to think of their footwear as equipment and less of an apparel attribute. Because when you really start thinking about the golf swing, and luckily I have a biology degree from the University of Colorado, so I spent a lot of time on how your foot's kind of articulating through a swing and how you're generating force in the ground and that kinetic chain. And if you think, you're starting all the motion from your feet. And if you can think about your footwear as a performance attribute, then that $20 really doesn't become that big a deal over the life of the shoe. And I think that supports the data where once you try it, you're stuck. We got you for life because you see it, you feel it, you're getting that advantage day in and day out on the course.
Yeah, I mean, we spent a fair amount of time with a couple of different footwear partners talking about the importance of being able to keep your feet secure, have your feet spread out pretty wide in your shoe so that you can use the ground to get maximum distance and performance. But then, you go to a fitting day on the range, you hit 3 different drivers, but you don't use 3 different pairs of shoes.
Yep.
And how do you kind of break through in that conversation then to a golfer and say, okay, well, if you have something that fits you better, you're not going to hit it 10 yards longer than your old driver, but you're going to hit it maybe 3 yards longer and be more consistent on every shot, as opposed to, as like you said, spending $750 on a new driver that may or may not do those benefits for you in the end.
Yeah, like you probably know those drivers are tested on a swing machine. and you can change the weighting to drop ball spin, which will add a little extra yards. So it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, but it gets people to buy the new stuff, and I'm fully support that. Um, I think there's some cool things happening in the background right now, like FootJoy. I just saw a video of Justin Thomas, who, if you've known Justin Thomas, he's worn their Premier Series, kind of that classic dress shoe looking for pretty much his whole career. And then this
Yeah.
year, he's now in Hyperflex, which is a more sport inspired model. And it really turns out they have a fit lab associated kind of with their Titleist TPI and their performance centers, where their top players are going in testing clubs, balls, but they're also testing footwear on force mats and seeing, oh, Justin, you jump when you swing. Like if you get a model that supports you and adds a little bit more explosivity, let's say, that's only going to help your like natural characteristics of your swing. And so they're leaning into that. I think when I was over in Japan last year for the Code Chaos launch, our brands put so much R&D, research and development into, let's say, their midsoles, outsoles. Like the Code Chaos has twist grip technology. Can BOA then add a fit performance that takes that new technology and even elevates it to a newer, higher level than they even imagined? And I think that's when we have brand partners that support us and we support them at deep levels. It's easy for them to talk about our technology kind of in harmony with their technology. And it was really fun to be over there in Tokyo at the launch party and really hear their team highlight BOA as like, this is what makes this model. It's not all us, it's their technology and the teamwork, the partnership between us from kickoff to production that really takes this model to the next level. So, we're learning, it's not a cookie cutter way, but we're taking things that work and tweaking them slightly, and year over year we're gaining more traction and we're getting consumers to think about footwear in a different way than I think they did 10 years ago. And 10 years from now, I think it'll only be better and only deeper, and that supports where we see us going in a vision, for BOA in the future.
Yeah, I think more people shouting about it from the rooftops, the the bigger the voice collectively gets, and maybe more people pay attention to that than a canary in the coal mine, so to speak, of kind of hoping that, knowing the data that BOA has, and knowing the partnerships that you've forged over the years, that clearly your brand partners see the performance benefit. You
Mm-hmm.
guys see the performance benefit, of course, but that as more people kind of shout about it together, you go, oh, okay, well, maybe I, the consumer, should pay more attention to that messaging and give that a thought, as opposed to just kind of what you tend to hear.
Yeah. And like the Performance Fit Lab, they do thousands tests each year where they're testing athletes. We don't just work in golf, we work in snowboard, alpine ski, workwear. So we're stretched across a bunch of different industries, but there's learnings in some that can carry over to others. And really, we've done some great tests in golf. Our original one showed some slight improvements in distance and precision. So you can kind of see a slight distance increase where you're not losing any precision. With data, you got to have a certain sample set before it can come really be like publishable. And as we're small and as we're scaling up, we're looking at future tests where we're going to have more participants, where we can really kind of start marketing that data more. And I'm really looking forward to that day, because I think that'll be when we can start maybe talking about those little performance advantages with golfers and the end consumers and on market. When you walk into, let's say, PGA Superstore, Golf Galaxy, and you see a BOA model, why can't we have a little sign that says, couple miles per hour club head speed without loss of accuracy? I think those are the little things that'll get a consumer that doesn't dive as deeply as myself or you into all the data and everything, that they're still going to understand what they get from a BOA model when they're there, and then maybe it gets them to try it on. And I'm a huge believer that when you try it on, you can feel the fit advantages pretty instantly. So we almost need to just get them in the shoe. And how do we do that? Could be, yeah, telling them what they're going to get when they spend a little bit more, or maybe step out of their comfort zone and get something that maybe looks slightly different, where we really focus on the aesthetics, to get it clean and, really integrated in a really good way. But it's still something that may be foreign to a lot of consumers, especially in North America. So we have to get them to at least step out of that, as I said, comfort zone and try it when they're, out at retail.
All right, last question, Seth. What has you most excited as someone who's on the inside at BOA right now? It could be literally anything. What kind of gets you excited, geeked out about the future of BOA products and their integration in golf?
Yeah, I mean, how much time do we have? Because I can talk about what excites me at BOA. I mean, I think at a certain level, from the ground up, the team we work with, when you think about our Performance Fit Lab team, we have a 2D and 3D design teams that can come to our brand partners and show them new design integrations and get them a fits like sample where they can feel it and show it, like really take what we're learning and understanding in the lab, bring it to life. They can try it on. Our development team that really works with sample reviews and approvals and working directly with factories to make sure that everything is installed at the fine tooth comb that we really look at with all of our parts. Having stuff that we warranty for the life of the product. I mean, that's unheard of in this day and age. If something happens, all you have to do is reach out for us and we're going to get you a new dial and new lace and get you back on the course without any hesitation. And then I think at a high level, it's just the brand partners we work with. For me, who's just always looked at Adidas and the Nikes and the Under Armours and the FootJoys as like these hero brands for me growing up, to actually be working with them from brief and design kickoff and all that. I mean, how much cooler can you get? I mean, I feel like I'm back when I'm 12 and I'm just having the best time of my life, really just integrating into all these different teams and supporting them and really understanding their business strategy at a deep level. And then we got product teams that are thinking about the next generation of dials, the next guides, the next lace, and seeing kind of what they're envisioning for the future of BOA products is just really cool. I mean, the future is bright. We love the journey we're on. We look at goals because you got to have small goals because it's those goals that add up. And then 10, 15 years from now, that's when you're really where we want to be. But it's the day-to-day work that gets me excited. It's the team I work with. It's the products. It's the partnerships we have that really jazz me. And just, I mean, I'm finally at a position at a company that I don't ever want to leave because we do things the right way. We're small, we're agile, we can influence our senior leadership. We're not this global conglomerate where we have no influence. We can directly kind of change course if we need to. They value our input. So you just feel like it's a job, but it's more of a team, it's more of a family. And I think that's when we're all working in harmony together. And we're seeing the benefits now, and it's only going to kind of spiral and snowball into bigger, better things in the future.
So thank you for spending some time with me, sharing your passion about it. It really comes out in how you talk about BOA and everything that you're working on. It's really cool. For folks who maybe want more information about BOA, where's the best place for them to go?
We have boafit.com, so it's kind of our website. We have really easy kind of navigation to all of our different industries. So let's say golf, you can click on golf. It'll kind of highlight all of the new products we're on with links directly to those consumer websites. I think that's the best approach. And then you can really kind of search through that, and you could probably end up getting connected with me if you wanted, and you can see how much I want to talk about it. I'll get on calls. I'll talk with anyone. I'll speak all day about this. So I would say start at boafit.com. Go from there, go to retailers, try to find BOA models, try them on, try to understand the different characteristics of dials. Because once you start going down that web, you're just going to get stuck, and it's a good place to be stuck, I'd say.
A good fit. A good pun to end on.
I would agree with that one. Better than what I was saying.
Well, Seth, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, Ryan, I really appreciate this opportunity. I love giving kind of that, pull the veil aside and give everyone a little inside look at what we do and show that we are thinking things at a really deep level and taking performance and fit to that next level, and allowing our end consumers to peak where they didn't think they could peak in the past.